Today, we're tackling a topic so many of us dread in the workplace. Yes, I'm talking about those difficult conversations that many times we have to have at work. Whether it's a coworker or a boss, the mere thought of this can send some of us into a spiral of anxiety. Well, what if I told you that that's not only unnecessary, but that confronting the problem does not have to be confrontational? Stick around as we explore 5 easy ways to navigate these tricky waters, ensuring a positive outcome for everyone involved. I'm Dr. Dawn, CEO and founder of Dr. Dawn Shop Talk, and you guys, we are a company that does this all the time. I actually will script for our clients exactly what to say when you're in these tricky situations. So feel free to reach out to us anytime on our website at drdawnshoptalk.com. Book a free consultation with us, and then that way we can see if there's any way that we can help. If you want copies, by the way, of difficult conversations that we have right there on the website, check that out. That is something that you can purchase on our digital store, or you can check out our free downloadables on the website, and also check out other YouTube videos and podcast episodes I have about how to deal with these kinds of situations. So I'll be sure to include all that information in our description for you. So just click on more to find out more. All right, you guys, like I said, confronting the problem does not have to be confrontational. This is something that a lot of people miss. They get so nervous about having the conversation, or they kind of approach it with this scarcity mindset and they're like, "Ugh, nothing's going to change anyway. Why even bother?" Let me tell you why to bother. Because it's going to fester. If you're really not standing up for yourself in certain situations, especially at work, it's going to bother you. It's going to affect your mental state, your emotional state. You're going to definitely feel that stress. It just kind of builds up. And you don't want to get to the point where you're so frustrated that you just quit without trying to see if you can resolve the situation. Now, sometimes you can't. But if you don't give it that effort, you're not going to feel good about yourself. You always need to voice it. Even if nothing changes, then you decide at that point what to do. But you need to respect yourself enough. And it really is about respecting yourself. I promise. I help clients with this. They don't see it. They just immediately presume nothing's going to change anyway. And I remind them, this is not about the other person. This is about you. Silence is concession, and you have to voice how you feel. Oftentimes, that other person doesn't even really realize that they're coming across that way. Maybe they've got their own issues, and maybe they never are going to really see it. But the important thing is for you to feel empowered, to make sure that you are establishing those healthy boundaries. Now, all throughout today's video, if I've got other videos I think can help, like I do have some on healthy boundaries, I'll be sure to include those in the description. And of course, here on YouTube, you can just click on it as it appears on your screen. But it really comes down to, again, you taking care of yourself. Remember, self-care is not selfish, and part of taking care of yourself in the workplace is making sure that you put your big girl pants on and you have those difficult conversations. Oftentimes it goes better than you imagined, and you could really make a difference in your working life, not just for yourself, but what if the problem you're concerned about is something that's affecting the whole office? Then you could be the reason things get better. That's one of the reasons why in my company at Shop Talk, we specialize in creating that enviable workplace culture, and we specialize in leadership, because whether you're a supervisor or not, you want to feel empowered, and every member of the team is important. So you guys, with all that in mind, let's get to it and let's talk about what you can do, how you can set yourself up for success, and not just in your work life. You can apply these same principles, these same steps and strategies when you have to have a difficult conversation in your personal life. All right, you guys, so let's get started. All right, step number one, the first thing I always tell clients to do is to prepare and reflect. In other words, first things first, preparation is key. So take the time to reflect back and decide, what kind of conversation are you wanting to have? Are you trying to give feedback? Or are you trying to discuss a sensitive topic? Or are you trying to resolve an actual conflict? All of these are very important, and you need to kind of go in with that goal in mind. Understanding your goals will also kind of guide your approach. Now, remember, when talking to a coworker, your goal needs to be collaboration. And that might be a little different than when you're talking to your boss. Sometimes when you're talking to the boss, you need to just be able to express your perspective. Now, of course, whether you're talking to the boss or a coworker, just always be respectful and professional. All right, step number 2, definitely choose the right place and time. Timing is everything, right? So you want to make sure, since this is probably a sensitive conversation, it's a difficult one. We know that. If you're watching this video, we know that's why you clicked on that thumbnail, right? So you want to make sure you set yourself up for success by picking as close to the perfect time and place. Sometimes it's not going to be perfect. In fact, most of the time, there's not a perfect time or place. But there can be a couple of things to consider to help your chances of success go up instead of going down because of when you chose to have the conversation. For example, with a boss, you may not be able to always have an impromptu conversation about this, even though you're prepared, right? So you may need to actually get on their calendar, schedule a meeting. If it's a coworker, maybe you're able to kind of visit with them more regularly and not have to get on the calendar, but you might consider a neutral place to have this conversation. So again, everybody feels comfortable. And a last tip on this strategy is make sure that regardless of where you go or whether you've got a meeting, make sure you've got privacy. You don't want to feel rushed or stressed because maybe other people are around. You want to feel comfortable in having the conversation. So privacy can definitely be key. All right, step number 3, definitely use I statements. You know, oftentimes it's great to say we when you're talking about teamwork. If you're really trying to build a team, that's very important. You definitely want to have a lot of we, right? As they always say, there's no I in team. But it's very different when you're wanting to have a difficult conversation because you're trying to share where you're coming from. You're trying to share your perspective. And you can't presume that the other person knows what that is or sees the world through your lens. So here is when it is important to say I instead of we. You want to make sure you're conveying that this is just how it came across to you, and that through this conversation you're hoping you can find middle ground where you can both understand each other's perspectives better, and moving forward that you can communicate in a much better and more constructive way. Step number 4, active listening. You have probably heard about this before, you guys. It's so important. Make sure you're not talking over the person. In my family, we always joke around that we just tend to do that. We're like, blah, 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 blah. You have to kind of jump in. Well, that's kind of not great, but it's definitely better in a personal situation. But at work, you definitely do not want to interrupt people. It's not funny, okay? Like I said, it's funny in my family because we don't mind doing it. But in the workplace, especially since this is, again, a sensitive topic, you want to be kind and respectful, and you want to be engaged in that conversation. So active listening means just that. You want to have great eye contact. You want to repeat back a couple things to make sure you're hearing them correctly. And again, it's going to go a long way in not only understanding each other's perspective, but it's also going to go a long way in showing that other person, whether it's your boss or coworker, that you are respectful and professional. Because as we know, communication is not a one-way street, people. It's a two-way street. Step number 5, seek out a win-win solution. In other words, you want to make sure it's going to benefit both parties. With a coworker, maybe it's compromising on the tasks that are not getting done. With your boss, it's going to probably mean coming into that conversation with a solution. I have strategies that I work out specifically with my clients where I actually script exactly what they're going to say. And if it's talking to their boss, it always includes coming in there with at least one solution. I'll also make sure I include the video I have about when your boss is a perfectionist, because that's very, very challenging. I'll include that here and in the description. Having a positive attitude and bringing those solutions, even with the coworker, that's fine too. But again, the approaches might be different depending on who you're talking to. If you're talking to your employee, if you're the manager, again, you want to be respectful. You want to come in with a solution mindset, and you always want to approach the conversation presuming that the person did not mean to come across that way and or that they're unaware that it's been bothering you. So, to wrap things up, remember, confronting the problem is important and it does not have to be confrontational. If you just leave things alone or sweep things under the rug, that's not healthy in your work life, much less your personal life. So, make sure that you come from this place of abundance, that you realize that silence is concession and it's just going to get worse if you don't say something. Now, you don't have to have a conversation over every little tiny thing, but I'm presuming that if you clicked on this video, you are enough of a professional that you know the difference. You don't want to turn into a negative Nancy, but you know why I know you're not one? It's because a negative Nancy probably thinks the problem is always the other person. They never think that they have anything really to do with the problem. Their perspective is just so negative. So oftentimes a negative person is not going to even bother trying to have a difficult conversation at work because, again, they're so negative. They truly believe nothing is going to change anything, and they're always going to think the worst about people. Now, can a negative Nancy change? Of course. I believe in the power of change, or else I wouldn't be a consultant and coach. But that has to start with that person, and who knows when they're going to come around. You want to focus on what you can control, okay? And what you can control is having the conversation. You can control being proactive. And remember, you're responsible for the effort, not the outcome. So if things don't change, then let's look at some other strategies. But start with the conversation first. See where it takes you, and just remember, step into your own power. That is so important. In fact, guys, if you want more information about how to step into your own power, I am starting a workshop series that are going to teach you 10 healthy habits, and healthy boundaries is definitely one of those healthy habits. I've got some podcast episodes about that as well and other videos, so check that out. Go to the website and you can find out more about this extremely affordable workshop. I've got a coupon code for you as well, so check that out. You're going to love it. We're going to do 21 days together as a group, and we're going to make sure 2024 is our best year yet. And if you stay to the very end of the video, don't forget, we love you. We really do. And we're here for you, so you reach out to us anytime. Take care and have a terrific day. Remember, you've got the power to make it one. See you next time.